The Chained Portrait. Aidan, an art restorer, entered the dusty mansion, taking in its dimly lit halls and eerie silence as he prepared to assess an antique painting collection. The scent of old wood and mildew filled his senses as he moved deeper into the mansion's gloomy rooms, a sense of foreboding settling on him. After hours of examining faded landscapes and somber portraits, he noticed a strange seam in the wall of the study, barely visible in the dim light. Curious, he pushed on the seam, and to his shock, a section of the wall opened to reveal a hidden room cloaked in shadow. Inside the room, Aidan's eyes fell upon a large, elaborate portrait chained to the wall, the figure's eyes seemingly following him. The portrait depicted a young woman with an unsettlingly intense gaze. She seemed lifelike, almost as if she were breathing. A chill ran down Aidan's spine when he recognized the woman as Sophie, a local artist who had recently gone missing under mysterious circumstances. Intrigued and unsettled, he traced his fingers over the chains, wondering why anyone would imprison a portrait in such a strange way. Aidan was no stranger to unusual art, but this portrait felt different, as though it held a sinister energy beyond paint and canvas. Over the following days, Aidan couldn't shake the feeling that Sophie's gaze held a warning, as if she was pleading for help. Determined to learn more, he began researching the mansion's history, uncovering whispers of a cursed family with a violent past. The mansion belonged to the Ashcroft family, known for their obsession with art and rumored to be involved in dark, ritualistic practices. Digging deeper, he found mentions of a portrait that allegedly foretold misfortunes, depicting victims before they mysteriously vanished. Days later, Aidan awoke to news of another disappearance, a woman who bore an uncanny resemblance to Sophie's portrait. The pattern was undeniable. Each disappearance mirrored a face that appeared in the portrait, as though it were recording their fates. Haunted by this realization, Aidan returned to the mansion to confront the eerie painting, desperate for answers about its origins. As he examined the portrait, he noticed faint symbols etched into the frame, symbols he recognized from occult books on binding spirits. The longer he looked, the more he felt as though the eyes in the painting were begging him to release whatever it held captive. But each time he considered tampering with the chains, a cold, creeping dread warned him to keep his distance from the sinister artifact. Just then, a voice in the shadows whispered his name, sending a shiver down his spine as he frantically searched for the source. He turned to see Gideon, the last living Ashcroft, standing in the doorway, his face pale and his gaze fixed on the chained portrait. Gideon revealed that the portrait contained the soul of a family member cursed to suffer eternally for a string of unspeakable murders. According to family law, the portrait would change to depict those marked for death, the spirits bound to the painting by dark rites. Aidan realized with horror that Sophie's likeness in the portrait meant she had become part of the cursed chain of souls. Before Aidan could ask more, Gideon warned him to leave, insisting that no one should interfere with the painting's dark purpose. Ignoring the warning, Aidan grew more determined to unravel the mystery and find a way to free the spirits trapped within. That night, he returned alone, armed with tools and a desperate hope that he could break the portrait's dark hold over its victims. As he worked, the house grew colder, shadows stretching as though the walls themselves were watching him. His tools slipped as an unnatural force seemed to grip the air around him, and he heard faint, anguished whispers from the portrait. Despite the mounting fear, Aidan continued, determined to break the chains and release the tortured souls within. With a final swing, he shattered one of the chains, and immediately, the room filled with a dreadful silence as the painting shifted. Sophie's eyes in the portrait seemed to brighten, a glimmer of life returning as if he had released a piece of her soul. But the change didn't stop. Slowly, the other faces in the portrait began to morph, their eyes filling with a haunting intensity. Aidan stumbled back, feeling as though he had awoken something far older and darker than he could comprehend. Suddenly, a ghostly figure appeared before him, her face identical to Sophie's, her expression one of desperation and fear. She whispered that the Ashcrofts had used the portrait to bind the souls of their victims, each murder fueling their twisted legacy. The souls were trapped within, bound by spells meant to keep their anguish alive, preserving the Ashcroft power. Desperate to end the cycle, Aidan realized he would have to destroy the entire portrait to truly free those imprisoned within. As he raised his tool to strike the canvas, a powerful force knocked him backward, the air filling with a furious, guttural scream. The figure of Gideon materialized again, but this time, his face twisted with rage, his voice echoing with the fury of generations. "You have no idea what you're tampering with," he hissed, his eyes burning as he moved toward Aidan, intent on stopping him. Mustering his courage, Aidan swung the tool again, this time tearing the canvas, a wave of energy bursting from within. The faces on the canvas began to dissolve, each one crying out as if finally being released from a century-old torment. Gideon screamed in despair as the souls escaped, the portrait's power crumbling and the mansion trembling with an unseen force. Aidan braced himself as the walls cracked, shadows fleeing as light flooded the hidden room for the first time in decades. The mansion's darkness receded, and with a final scream, Gideon vanished, his spirit bound to the last chain of the cursed family. As Aidan stood alone in the ruins of the hidden room, he felt the weight of what he had unleashed, an ache settling in his chest. Outside, the police arrived, drawn by neighbors reporting the strange noises echoing from the old mansion. Aidan was questioned, his story of spirits and cursed portraits met with skeptical looks from the officers. He left the mansion, shaken and haunted, but knowing he had freed Sophie and the others from their eternal prison. In the following days, Aidan felt a lingering darkness, as though a part of the curse had attached itself to him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sophie's face, her gaze a mixture of gratitude and sadness that wouldn't fade. Despite the danger, he found himself researching other tales of cursed portraits, drawn to the mystery of art's dark side. Friends noticed his change, the shadows under his eyes deepening, his demeanor distant and preoccupied with unseen fears. The memory of Gideon's voice echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder of the Ashcroft family's dark legacy. He could never forget the feeling of those chained souls, their despair etched into his mind, lingering with every heartbeat. Though he had broken the curse, Aidan knew he could never return to the life he had led before entering the Ashcroft mansion. With a heavy heart, he accepted that he would forever be marked by the horrors he had uncovered in that cursed house. Aidan left the city, vowing to never restore art again, yet feeling an inexplicable pull to return to the haunted shadows of his past.